From wishes to reality. Using prayer. A lot of people seem confused about the right way to approach spiritual power and find inner peace. Many different schools of thought are trying to grab students' attention. The printing press is working overtime churning out new books and pamphlets. Magazines pop up and disappear. All this has left folks feeling pretty discouraged. They're wondering what they need to do to save themselves. Believe on the Lord Jesus and you will be saved, and your entire household. We all know in our hearts that the true gate is narrow and the real way straight. The truth, of course, is this, that the only solution of the problem is definitely to contact the spiritual power which dwells within your own soul, and having consciously done that, to bring it to bear upon the various difficulties in your life, taking them in due order, that is, attacking the most urgent first. This is the right way of working, and it is the only way that can possibly help you, or your affairs, in the long run. The real remedy for every one of your difficulties is, as we are told on every page of the Bible, to find and know the indwelling presence, the Christ consciousness. Identify now, yourself with Him and be at peace. In His presence is fullness of joy. This, then, is the task, and the only one, to find, and consciously know, your own indwelling Christ consciousness, Christ mindset. You see now how the confusion disappears, melts away, and the perfect simplicity of the whole thing emerges once you realize this fact. From this necessarily follows that all schools and churches, all teachers, under whatever name they may be called, all textbooks, magazines, pamphlets, and what-not, are temporarily useful for enabling you to make this contact. In themselves they were of no importance except as a means to an end. The best mode of approach to spiritual things for you is the one that happens to make it easiest for you to locate the inner light. The Christ consciousness, the Christ mindset, within yourself. Such things as temperament, education, family tradition, and so on, will make one book, or one teacher, or one school, more useful than another, but never is anything more than a means to a certain end. That end is effective self-discovery. As God's messenger, I give each of you God's warning: be honest on your estimate of yourselves, measuring your value by how much faith God has given you. Be true to yourself, which is the spiritual I am. Romans 12, verse 3. And so we see that the best movement, the finest textbook, the greatest teacher, is just the one that happens best to fit the individual need. It is entirely a practical matter, and the only test that ever could or ever will be of any use, is the practical one of judgment by results. Of course, Jesus anticipated this difficulty, and met it, as He has met all our difficulties. He gave us the simple and perfect standard. You hear false teachers who come disguised, but are wolves and will tear you apart. You can detect them by the way they act, just as you can identify a tree by its fruit. You need never confuse grapevines and bushes or figs with whatever. Different kinds of fruit trees can quickly be identified by examining their fruit. A variety that produces delicious fruit never produces an inedible kind. And a tree producing an inedible kind can never produce what is good. So the trees having the inedible fruit are chopped down and thrown on the fire. Yes, the way to identify a tree or a person is by the kind of fruit produced. Matthew chapter 7, verse 15 to 20. The great peril to true religion has always been the building up of vested interests in a wealthy organizations, or in the exploitation by individuals of their own personalities. An organized church is always in danger of developing into an industry which has to provide a living for numerous officials. When this happens, the rank and file are sure to be severely discouraged from seeking spiritual things for themselves at first hand. A tradition of loyalty to the organization is built up as a means of self-protection. Not loyalty to truth, or to your own soul, but to the detached machine. Thus the means becomes an end in itself and spiritual power then fades out. Rashid promises and vague claims take the place of real verifiable demonstrations. In the case of leaders who exploit their own personalities, the student is discouraged from going elsewhere for enlightenment, and here again loyalty to something other than God is allowed to block the avenue of truth, and therefore becomes Antichrist. What is this but the jealousy of the petty tradesman who warns a doubtful customer of the danger he runs in going to the shop next door? Remember that your absolute loyalty is not to anything or anyone but your own soul and to the furtherance of its spiritual development. Your most solemn duty is to make everything secondary to that. To thine own self be true, and it must follow, as the night follows the day. The first step that the earnest student must take is to settle on a definite method of working, selecting whichever one seems to suit them best, and then giving it a fair trial. That means that you must acquire a definite method or system of spiritual treatment or a prayer. Merely reading books, making good resolutions, or talking casually about the thing will get you nowhere. Get a definite method of working, practice it conscientiously every day, and stick to one method long enough to give it a fair chance. You would not expect to play the violin after 2 or 3 attempts, or to drive a car without a little preliminary practice. Having developed your method, set to work definitely on some concrete problem in your own life, choosing preferably whichever is causing you the most trouble at the moment, or, better still, whatever it is that you are most afraid of. Work it steadily, and if nothing has happened, if no improvement at all shows itself within, say, a couple of weeks at the outside, then try it on another problem. If you still get no result, then scrap the method and make a new one. Remember, there is a way out that is as certain as the rising of the sun. The problem really is, not the getting rid of your difficulties, but the finding of your own best method for doing it. If ill health is your difficulty, do not rest until you have brought about at least one bodily healing. There is no ailment that has not been healed by someone at some time, and what others have done you can do. For God is principle, and principle changes not. If poverty is the trouble, go to work on that, and clear it up once and for all. It can be done. It has been done. Others have done it, and you can too. If you are unhappy, dissatisfied with your lifestyle, or your surroundings, above all, with yourself, set to work on that. Refuse to take no for an answer, and insist upon the happiness and satisfaction that are yours by spiritual right. If your need is self-expression, artistic, literary, or otherwise, if your heart's desires to attain to greatness in a profession, or some kind of public career, that, too, approached in the right spirit, is a legitimate and worthy object, and the right method of prayer will bring you the prize. Keep a record of your results, and on no account be satisfied with anything less than success. Above all things, avoid the deadly error of making excuses. There are no excuses for failing to succeed. When you do not succeed, it never by any chance means anything except that you have not worked in the right way. With God everything is possible. Mark chapter 10, verses 25 to 27. Excuses are the true and absolute devil, who comes to tempt you to remain outside the kingdom of heaven, while the gate stands open. Excuses, in fact, are the only enemy that you really need to resist. So give yourselves humbly to God. Resist the devil and he will flee from you. James chapter 4, verse 7. Find the method that suits you, seek simplicity, the secret of effective prayer, work away steadily, keep your own counsel, and in solemn truth. Jesus the Christ, says, I tell you, anyone believing in me shall do the same miracles I have done, and even greater ones. Because I am going to be with the Father. You can ask him for anything, using my name, and I will do it, for this will bring praise to the Father because of what I, the Son, will do for you. John chapter 14, verse 13. Peace, make each day a blessed day.